We need a couple minutes to get people set up there. Too bad, I'm starting anyway. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're getting better at that.
Yeah.
I do it twice.
So, everybody had a good vacation?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, vacation. You're glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. This is meeting number 212 of TMG the Macro, and I'm so happy to see all of you here today. My name is Bill Herrick. I'm the current president of the user group, and I'm also one of the insane house husbands that founded the group.
Have we ever had any other president?
Yes, we have.
Not since I've been around.
General Jerry Ehrenstein was president 1 year. Mark Cobb was president for a couple years. Dr. Robert Bernstein was president for 1 year, and he was also the moderator, and then we told him that he didn't do a very good job. So yeah, we've had several people that were presidents. I usually was lurking in the background being treasurer until we got Art to do that.
How was your summer?
It was good. It was very good. Okay. Am I fully employed yet? No. But my daughter's getting married next year, and so we've got that whole wedding thing that's going on. My youngest son finished his Mandarin requirement, and so he's officially graduated from OSU in a couple days. And my daughter, who was living in our house and was working in Middletown, got a job out in Paonia, Colorado with a think tank. And so she's out there right now, and she just got a firm job offer beyond paper from a place in just north of Bloomington, Indiana, where she'll be able to use her Master of Science in Environmental Sciences. Be doing some good stuff. And my oldest son has told me he's real close to getting his dissertation doctorate done. Except that he said. Okay, so good start. Good start. Okay, let's roll through our normal procedure. We start out with the thing that we call the welcome or the embarrassment, and what we ask is that our visitors or new members stand up and introduce themselves to us. I'm going to start with Mike Mullenhour. Did I get that wrong, Mike?
Mullenhour.
Okay. Mike, what I want you to do is just tell us a little bit about what kind of Mac you've got or want to have, or what kind of Apple device you got, because we do iPad too, and phones and stuff. And what do you use it to do, and what you want to learn how to do?
Well, my name is Mike Mullenhour. I found you guys on the internet. I've got an older MacBook Pro that I bought from a friend who shouldn't have bought it several years ago, and then just recently, April Fool's Day, bought the new 21.5 iMac, and 30 days later they came out with a new model. I guess that's just the way it goes with technology.
Well, and with Apple, they obsolete themselves. In other words, Apple makes sure that they are always providing the customer the most they can for the money. So.
Right. Well,
So just
I could have waited 30 days,
okay.
but that's
Mike.
that's life. I've been in computers for a long time, but
Okay.
I've always been in PC. I use it basically for basically home use.
So that'd be email, web
Email,
browsing.
internet, finances.
Okay.
Um,
And what do you want to learn how to do that you don't know how to do?
excuse me?
What do you want to learn how to do that you don't know how to do?
Well, I consider myself a beginner because most of the stuff is there. I'd like to know more of the.
Okay.
They ask me about Windows, and I can tell you quite a bit, but getting into the Mac is a little bit different. So I'm open to learn anything and everything.
Good. All right, thank you, Mike. Sure. Now, at the break, people walk up to Mike, say hi, make him feel welcome. We also have 2 new sets of members, Jerry and Eileen Lawrence. Jerry? Just introduce yourself to the
I
group.
have an apple, and I've had it for about a year, and I'm still learning, and you were my teacher, so you told me about this, so I thought I'd come and join and learn some more.
I know she dragged Jerry with
That's
us.
my husband, Jerry.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Martin and Elizabeth Knapp. There's Marty, I don't see Liz.
Elizabeth is entertaining a guest from Columbus today, but we have an iMac, about 6 years old, and she has an iPad. And what I'm here to learn is how to get information from the Mac to the iPad. And like the gentleman there, everything else that you can get in this old dog's head.
Yeah. Okay. So again, at the break, when you see Marty, you see Mike, you see Eileen, you see Jerry, just say hi, make them feel welcome. All right. So let's see. Next thing would be news, stuff that's happened since our last meeting. Anybody got anything they want to share about stuff that might have happened at Apple Computer, or any minor little thing, change of management, or people resigning their positions? Okay, you do know that Steve Jobs has resigned as Chief Executive Officer of Apple. From what I've heard third hand from Steve Wozniak is it's not because he's really, really sick. The reason he did it was they were afraid that Tim Cook was going to go someplace else. And they felt this was the right time to do it, and they were getting a lot of static from Wall Street that they didn't have this succession plan in place. So it's just felt that it's going to be a better transition. Tim Cook is a very interesting guy in a lot of different levels. When he started with HP, it was right after they had bought Compaq and they were doing this aggregation of the 2 companies. Synergy, merger of equals, you know the routine. Okay. So Tim Cook is sitting in this room with these other vice presidents. And he's looking at the stuff and they're discussing some issues and he says, oh, well, we really have this problem with the supply chain in China. We need somebody to be out there right away. And he's looking at one of these vice presidents when he's saying it. And then they go on for about 5 minutes later, and then Tim Cook stops the meeting and he looks at that vice president and he says, why are you still here? And the vice president who was in charge of that said, what do you mean? He said, well, I said we had something that was out of control and we needed somebody really good to go take care of it, and that's your bailiwick. Why didn't you get up and go see your secretary and get your tickets for China? And the vice president said, oh, you mean now? And Cook said, yeah, now. And that's one of the stories that Steve Jobs heard when he decided he wanted to bring this guy into the team. So you
Supposedly
got somebody who is very, very proactive.
Supposedly that guy went directly to the airport. He didn't even go home.
Yeah.
He didn't even get clothes. He just went to China.
And that fellow right now works for Foxconn.
Yeah.
He doesn't work for HP anymore. He actually works for Foxconn. He got over there and he liked it and he stayed. Okay. So anyway, so there's going to be some interesting stuff. I don't think with Jobs moving out of the position he was in to this other position on the board of directors that you're going to see anything about Apple's corporate culture changing. I think you're still going to see that dedication to products that we want, but we didn't know we wanted them. Is the way I would put it. Anybody else have anything else they want to share about stuff
On
that's
a related note, there was a piece on several of the news websites that Jonathan Ive will be staying with Apple, their industrial design.
Yeah.
There were lots of rumors that he would be leaving, and that seems not to be true.
And let's see. Another thing I want to share with you, you reach a certain point in your life and people you know or people you've heard of start to leave this life. So there was a fellow by the name of Mike Hart that died last week, and you probably don't know his name. But this is the fella that in 1971 started to create the first of the electronic books. He was a graduate student at the University of Illinois, and he was doing some stuff in the computer department, and everybody had lots of computer time, and they were supposed to use it to play around. Because in those early days, this is pre-internet, this is pre-web browser, this is almost, well, actually it was pre-microcomputer. He decided that there were all of these books that were in the public domain, and they were starting to disappear, and that he should start taping them, getting them into an electronic form. That later became Project Gutenberg, which was at the University of Illinois for quite a few years. And then later on, this is the reason why Maine's one of my heroes, he realized it was too big for him to handle. Because you're begging for money and that sort of stuff. And so what he did was, at a conference, he cozied up to the president of Carnegie Mellon University. Now, the president of Carnegie Mellon University is thinking he's a deep pocket donor. Okay? And they start talking about this Project Gutenberg, and the president got involved. He thought this was like a pet project of this person with deep pockets, lots of money. And so Carnegie Mellon then took over the administration of it from a financial standpoint, and also from having the servers where you can vend all this stuff. And it's been a very, very successful venture since then. #1 place to find free electronic books in a variety of formats, and also audiobooks. Okay, so anyway, he just recently passed, meaning he's dead, no longer with us, whatever other acronym you want to use. Let's see, there's been some other little stuff. We had a new operating system come out from Apple called Lion. That's what the main presentation is going to be about today. The bad news is I'm going to be your presenter. We didn't get Shauna to do our presentation. She does a better job than I do, but I'll try and step up to it. Moving up. Our novice group will be moderated by Don Baldiff. And Don is going to, his little topic that he likes to start out with, he's going to be talking about organizing your bookmarks or favorites in your web browsers. And there's other stuff he'll probably share with you as you ask him questions.
The usual questions, some of which I can answer, some of which I can't.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, the whole idea of a user group like this, it's real simple. I am not the source of all wisdom in this room. Mr. Georges is not the source of all wisdom. Mr. Baldiff isn't. But if you ask a question and you got enough people in the room, somebody's going to have an answer.
Crowdsourcing.
Yeah, crowdsourcing. Now, you may have to listen through the, oh my God, it took forever for me to figure it out. First I tried this, first I did. You just tune that part out. You wait till they get to the end and they go, and then the solution was to buy those Avery labels and then to do this. Okay, but that's the whole idea of a user group. You liking what you hear, Mike? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have you belonged to other computer user groups?
No.
Okay. Because this is an unusual group. We've got a lot of ladies in the group. We tend to not allow people to commit computer aggression. You know, I've got a, no, we just, what are you using it for? And how do you want to learn the next thing? Okay. I don't think we have any other news items. Going once, going twice. And I can't think, I don't know of any employment that's open right now, so I'm going to be, we don't have anybody who's overdue with dues, do we, Mr. Kirkman?
No, we're okay right
Okay. So I'm going to say it's time for Health Fest. So did anybody have any problems over the summer? Yes?
I'm back to my problem with printing documents that are in an older copy of Microsoft Word.
Okay.
And I was trying to do a document with bullets in it.
Okay.
It would print down to the first dot of the bullet and nothing. I ultimately removed the bullets.
Yes.
And it printed the whole thing. I could print it in Page, Apple Page.
Apple Pages, part of iWork.
And pull it into that, and if I tried to go back into Word,
Yeah.
same problem. And I don't know whether it's, should I just give up on my old Word processor and buy a new one?
Okay.
New program?
Two things we're going to do right now. First one is, what I'd like you to do is when you get home later on, when you have time, send me an email that's got all these details repeated one more time. But what version of the operating system are you running?
Snow Leopard, I think.
Okay. You think you're running Snow Leopard? Okay. And which version of Office are you running?
That's the one with the old one.
2004, Office X.
X, I think, about Word.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Office X. That's the problem.
More than one. Yeah, on a couple different levels.
So, replace this, yeah.
Well, okay, but there's other alternatives. One of them is there are 3 different Office suites out there that are part of what's called free open source software. So you have what used to be called Sun Office, and then it was called Open Office, because now Oracle bought Sun Office. So there's Star Office, and then for a brief time it was Sun Office. So anyway, there's one that's called Open Office, and that's all one word. That's free open source software. There's another one which is called LibreOffice, LibreOffice. Again, free open source software. And the last one is called NeoOffice, Neooffice. All 3 of those Office suites, they have a similar characteristic. Remember back in the days of Microsoft, it was the suite where they had all the programs together. Works, Microsoft Works. Okay. When you launch LibreOffice, it says, okay, do you want to do a spreadsheet? Do you want to do a word processing document? Do you want to do a drawing? Do you want to do a painting? Do you want to do a database? Okay. Same thing with OpenOffice, same thing with NeoOffice. So they actually have more functionality than the Microsoft Office for the Mac, because they never gave us a database equivalent of access on the Mac. So you might want to look at those. The downside is the interfaces can get a little clunky. It's very much like being on a Windows machine prior to Windows XP. So you're back in the Windows 98 second edition days. Okay? Okay, but send me the email anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Because I had some more people. You don't mind using a dead man's software, do you? Because I had a family, their grandfather died, he had stuff, and I think there was a copy of Office 2004 on CD that was in the box with other stuff. Yes, Chuck?
I was trying to convert label printing from AppleWorks to NeoOffice. Is there anyone that knows how to get all that database to be able to print it on labels? I could get the labels set up and everything, and when I went to put the first name in, or the series of like 10 names, I could only get it to replicate the first name on all the labels, not the additional databases.
Let me just ask a little bit of question here. Okay, so you're trying to do mail merge, so you've got stuff in a
I want to do
spreadsheet.
labels. I want to print out labels on a page.
Okay. If you're following a sort of a Microsoft type of way of doing it, that's called mail merge, and what you have is a spreadsheet that has your data in it, and then you create a template in your word processing program, and you put in placeholders, and then you tell it that you want it to use the data that's in the spreadsheet.
I think the placeholders might be my problem.
Yeah.
I couldn't get those to come in, or didn't know how to get those.
Ron, you got something you want to add?
Yeah, I've played around with moving data sometimes, and it may depend on the separator that you have between the various elements of the data, like between the first name and a comma, the first name and last name, you may need a comma or a semicolon. It sounds like you're getting all the data for a particular record trying to be put in the field for first name or something like that. And one of the things that I found successful is go to one of the text editing programs that you can find and replace whatever is separating the data, be it
Called delimiters.
a comma or a semicolon, replace it with what's necessary for the application that you're using.
Well, I think I had at least 20 names and addresses and all in the spreadsheet, or at least that's what it looked like.
Okay, and the spreadsheet's in Apple Work.
No, this is in Neo Office.
This is in Neo Office.
I had moved them,
It started life as Apple Works though?
yeah, but I had copied and pasted rather than trying to get anything to merge.
Okay.
I had both of them up and just copied the name,
Because
pasted
it
it.
wouldn't do the import?
I didn't worry about that
Okay.
too much. But when I went to do these placeholders, I thought I would take the top name of the column.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried to drag that to the place on the label, the first label, I couldn't see anything happening. And when I went to the first name and started dragging those over and placing them, then when I went to replicate, everything was the same.
Okay. So I've got some playtime this weekend. I'll take a look. If anybody else has some ideas, you've already got an email into us, so
Yeah.
I got a placeholder for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, if you export the old file into this word processor, you could put everything in there, export it into, or take it out, save it as a plain text file, and you take it into, or you can replace, like you said, if you get your different fields, you can use a comma, because you want to use a comma delimited file. But you take it into Excel, clean it up, and you have to find out what kind of headers they want in your new program. Your field headers has to match. If it doesn't match, it's not going to load them in.
What I would recommend, Tom Kurtner, when he was the pre-press manager of Bloom Printing, that's all he was doing most of the time, was just bringing in people's data in that and massaging around. So you might want to just talk to Tom at the break.
I believe Apple Works will export as comma separated values.
Yeah. It'll also export as to the older Excel formats that you can then just suck right into. Okay. Have you got the X version of Apple Works, or you got the OS 9 version of Apple Works? You got 6.2.9, or you still at 6.2.7?
Apple Works 6.
Okay, and
Question on virus checkers. Does the iPad really need a virus checker?
at this time, the answer is no.
How
You
about
don't need a virus checker.
iPhone for?
iPhone, same deal, because your apps are all coming through the Apple App Store, they're checking that stuff, they're looking for vulnerabilities, it's a closed system. If you're running a Droid, HTC, you gotta be careful, there's a lot of, you don't have a central controlling authority that's watching this stuff.
Is there a way to set an automatic update for your software for the iPad or the iPhone 4?
Sure. When you've got your iPad, you're tethering your iPad to a computer, PC or Mac.
Mac.
All right. What you would be doing then is launching iTunes. All right. And then remember, when you are synchronizing, it's putting a copy of all your iPad apps on the computer. So you got it in a second place. So then you go into iTunes. I don't know if I've got any on this one here, but we'll find out real quick. Sometimes it's easier to just show a picture. And say agree.
Yeah, there's been an iTunes update.
I'm going to sit for a minute because it's easier for me to talk while I'm sitting there. Talk while I'm standing if my hands are moving. Okay. So what you would be doing, this is a default setting for iTunes. So the first thing you want to do is go to your iTunes preferences, click in the box that says apps, so it shows up in your sidebar. So I'm in preferences. Now, I say okay. Now in my sidebar, it shows me apps. I click on that. I'm going to zoom out again. and there's a little button down here in the lower right. I'll zoom in on it. It says check for updates. You click on that. It's going to be checking for updates for those apps that were purchased with a particular Apple iTunes.
That will just do it on your system that you're not.
Correct, but then when you
Well, you
synchronize,
have to do that.
it looks to see which apps are on the iPad that you've updated on the computer, and it then puts the new version on it. And I found that to be a better way to do it, because typically, if I've got my iPad, I'm doing Wi-Fi, maybe doing cell phone, but the PC or Mac is going to be at home, it's hooked up to a better broadband, so it's going to be able to download this stuff quicker. Now remember, you don't have to put every app that you downloaded on your iPad. You can pick and choose. You can have some on this iPad, some on this one, some on this iPhone.
Or whenever they update, say the iPhone 4, do they also update the iPad?
Yeah,
software?
the
That's
operating
okay.
system will be going to iOS 5. There'll be slight variations between what a Verizon iPad gets versus what an AT&T iPad gets. Same thing with the phones. Slight difference between what an AT&T iPhone has or a Verizon iPhone has. And, the rumor mill says Sprint's going to get one now. But my bet is if the T-Mobile doesn't go through, the merger between AT&T and T-Mobile, that T-Mobile may try and get the iPhone then. Because then they'd have a network that works and good phones. I'd have an advantage over AT&T that's got good phones but crappy network. Okay. Okay, so did I sort of get you where you want to be?
Yeah, I just didn't know, you can do the update through your apps by going to the App Store.
Okay, now this is updating the applications. If you want to update the operating system that's on the device,
Right.
that's going to be that summary page that you first see.
That's the only way you really can do it is
Correct.
through the iTunes.
Unless you're jailbreaking your iPad, and I'm not going to talk about that today. It gets to come. Okay, I'm going to go to Dan Sheets first, and then I'll go to Ron.
Question about Norton antivirus. We had it fire up at 2 o'clock this morning, or I guess supposed to. We got about halfway through, and it seems to have hung up on one file. Any idea what was happening?
Okay, what is the antivirus program?
Norton?
You got Norton, so you got Norton for the Mac installed. And you're saying the update didn't complete, the antivirus
No, it
update?
was running its periodic scan of the system,
Okay,
and it seems to have gotten hung up on one file.
okay. And it's like it couldn't do anything with it and it just stayed there.
Right,
Did you happen to notice which file it was?
yes.
What was it?
14905
Okay, that would be a file that's part of your email system. What I would do first is, do you remember when I showed you how to repair permissions using this utility? I would do that first because the most common reason for that to happen is because with email, you got files coming in and going out, and there's indexing and all sorts of stuff gets created. Sometimes the permissions get pooched on them. So you want to make sure that the operating system knows that it's okay for Semantic or Norton to be messing with that file. But the other one would be you might have something that is savvy about Semantic, and it's fighting Semantic on it. So there might be something in that file, an attachment or something.
So we
Run the disk permissions repair first. Reboot the machine and then tell Semantic Norton to do a scan. And see if it goes all the way through. The other possibility is did you have your mail program up and running? Because if you had the mail program up and running, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm working with that file, you can't touch it. Leave it alone until I get finished. Yeah. Well, blocking won't necessarily prevent Norton from doing a scan. Yeah, permissions will. Okay, now we're going to go over to Ron Dick.
I had a question about the .ipa files.
Okay.
Sometimes if you update an iPad app to a newer version of it, I end up with file names that are .ipa in the trash.
Yep.
Is that .ipa file what's needed to put that app on an iPad, or what is it?
No. Okay. One of the things, sort of general context, you've got a file, and the end of the file's name has got dot something on it. That's what the computer uses to tell what kind of file it is. Right? In the old Mac days, Macintoshes put data forks, and you had metadata that was actually put into a file. Now they do it the same way that PCs do. So if you have a file that ends with .jpg, the Mac's going to think it's an image file, PC's going to think it's an image file. So what does the .ipa suffix stand for? It's telling you that that file is a program for the operating system iOS. In other words, it's an app for an iPhone or an iPad or an iPod Touch. So what's happening when you're updating, let's say you're updating the operating system, or it's also going to be updating apps. So it's taking the old app out of the place where it's got it stored in your iTunes database, putting it into the trash because it's brought the new one in. So when you synchronize your devices, they're getting the new app that's appropriate for that OS. So that's what an IPA file is.
So a follow-up question. If I wanted the old version of that app,
yeah.
could I take the IPA file out of the trash and put it back into where those files are stored?
And store it someplace where, And if you jailbreak your mobile device, your Apple mobile device, you can get things to run that you didn't necessarily, that don't necessarily have your iTunes ID in them. Because that's the other thing, they sort of stamp these things so it's got inside that this is the one you bought, as opposed to the one that they bought. So that's number one reason why people jailbreak, so that they can run other apps that they didn't buy.
One last follow-up question. Could I take that .ipa file and move it from my iPad to my wife's iPad by putting it on her computer where she syncs her iPad?
Yeah, you could.
Just by...
Now, the thing is, you're going to have to authorize, this is assuming you're not jailbreaking anything. You're staying plain, doing it the Apple way. You would have to go into the iTunes settings, where it says Store on the menu bar, and authorize that computer for the Apple ID that purchased that app.
Okay.
So that it's authorized for more than one Apple ID.
Lots of things to learn.
Yeah, lots of things. Okay. All right. Elton, before you speak, I want to tell you that I was able to print from my iPad to an HP printer using an app from HP. I was shocked that HP actually has figured out how to get their printers to work with the iPad. So later on, I'll share that with you. Okay, now.
My question is, we're talking about these apps for the iOS operating systems, which are in iPod
iOS,
Touch,
yeah.
Apple, iPhone 4, etc. When they talk about, I see you mention various different apps for iPhone 4. It doesn't involve talking on the phone part. If it's some other application, does that mean it'll automatically work on an iPod Touch? I have an iPod Touch. I do not have an iPhone 4. And when they talk about these apps for your iPhone 4, there have been some that I would like to have on my iPod Touch. Do they automatically work on all the iOS?
The vast majority do. As long as it's not Okay. Think of the physical differences of an iPod Touch with an iPhone. Okay, iPod Touch doesn't have cameras. Okay, iPhone does.
Camera?
Version 4?
Yes, it does.
Okay, but think of the older, he's got the older
I've got
iPhone.
the new one.
You got the small little one, the
I
square
got
one?
the new one with
Okay.
FaceTime and everything.
Okay, well, then my answer to you would be, it's gonna be able to run all the stuff that the iPhone
Okay,
can.
thank you.
You don't necessarily want to be doing the iPad apps on it because the screen on the iPod Touch is so small,
Right.
it's not, you're just not going to get value out of it.
But the application should work.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the easiest way to find out is tether your iPod Touch to your computer, launch iTunes, and then go rummaging through the App Store because it will show you, you know, hey, this is for this and this will work, this it won't. But rule of thumb, if it works for the iPhone, it'll work for the iPod Touch.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'm looking. Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Over here.
Oh, this is always going to be.
Oh, you don't want to call on.
Okay, Ray. Yes, Ray. Mr. Ratcher.
Part of my question is what I hope you'll cover in the Lion presentation, but I'm finding a number of applications that will not be compatible with Lion.
Yes.
Mostly all the Quicken except Essentials, which I hear is not really all that good. By the way, Mint works real well and I like it. But one of my mission critical apps is FileMaker Pro 9, and I don't think it's going to be. I can't get confirmation on that. But I can save everything in that app as an Excel file. Will I have any serious problems just moving everything over to Bento? Because I've always felt Bento would do the job just as well.
Bento, which is also from the folks at FileMaker, while it's intended to be less feature-rich than FileMaker, for the average person that's managing data, it's going to be more than adequate. It has very robust import-export capabilities to it. And with that said, let me just real quick bring up Safari. And I want to click on this one. What I'm doing, this is sort of just a preview. I'm going to a website and it's called Roaring Apps, ROARING-APS. And what we're going to do is we're going to go searching for, and we're going to see what FileMaker does. So I'm just going to do FileMaker. So FileMaker is both the company's name and it's also one of their products. And let's just click on that one. Okay, so these are the ones. So you've got FileMaker Pro, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Version 9.
Yeah, so they're saying, yeah, okay. Let me go to the other one, the app compatibility table. This particular website is one of these things where it's sort of crowdsourced. So you've got these folks, they put up the website, and then they've got about 3,000, 4,000 developers who are telling them, or and people, just regular people, telling them what works with Lion and what doesn't. So in this case, we want to go to the apps for FileMaker. And I'm on a slow connection here, it looks like. There we go. So I'm scrolling through the list. And they've got about 6,000, 7,000 apps that they can tell you what's going on with. Okay, so I'm going down to here, and what I'm seeing is FileMaker Pro 11 has some issues. That's what the yellow dot means. FileMaker Pro Advanced 903 says it's good to go. So, which flavor of FileMaker have you got? That's the question.
I don't think it's advanced. I think just plain
Yeah.
FileMaker Pro 9.
And notice with FileMaker Server and FileMaker Server Advanced, But I'm thinking with FileMaker 9, that was released just after they did the switch from the PowerPC to the Intel chips. Or am I thinking FileMaker 8?
I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't think it relies on Rosetta. Rosetta's technology, software technology, that Apple put into their operating systems so that you could still run the programs that were written for PowerPC chips. So if you remember back in the days where we had our Macintosh G4s and G3s and G5s, those were PowerPC chips. Well, they've been making everything with Intel chips since then, but they had this software that would let you run the older programs on it. And they were telling, it's 10 years now. They've been telling people for 10 years that this was the year they were going to stop supporting PowerPC chips, because they stopped making them 8 years ago. And the folks at Quicken, Intuit, just didn't get it. Yeah?
If you go to About This Mac and look at your applications listing, it'll tell you whether your application is Intel or PowerPC based.
Yeah, About This Mac. So you go up to your Apple menu, it's the first item in there, About This Mac. You get this screen comes up. You click on the button that says More Info. And we wait a little bit. And we scroll down a little bit here. I'm going to just hide the other screen so we don't have the other stuff up in the way. Oh, all sorts of stuff up there. Scroll on down. Click on Applications. Now this is an Intel MacBook Pro running Snow Leopard. I don't think I have any legacy stuff on this. And so it's looking at all the software that's on the computer. And you can tell I haven't done this for a while. So it will tell you what kind of app it is and whether it's down here. As I click on the thing, it gives you a lot more information about it.
On the very right.
I have a question related to this,
Okay,
if I could ask.
sure.
I did that on my Snow Leopard.
Yep.
And I got pages and pages and pages of classic, over on the right there,
Yeah.
classic apps on my machine. And I thought, I'm not really running for, classic, I can't run, in fact. And so anyhow, well, I dug a little deeper and I found out was that it was picking up apps that I had just kind of archived in a couple folders on the machine, okay? Is there any way to stop it from, when I go to apps on Snow, I don't want to list all that junk. It's just stuff that I've archived.
Okay, let me just say this. Okay? When they were writing this, and I want to make sure that you understand, Apple engineers, Apple hardware and software engineers, they truly value you. So this is not a pejorative thing, but what they basically say is, we're writing this for the typical Macintosh user. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not typical.
Okay, yeah, we know you. You're not typical in a whole bunch of, you're Six Sigma out.
Unique, just like everyone else.
I'm gonna throw my apple.
Okay. So they write it for the average person who doesn't really know much about the technology. They're more concerned about the functionality. So it's designed to search and see exactly what's on that boot drive, even if it's in a folder that's archived off to the side. Okay, now, my question to you is, do you do this every day to check what your apps are?
No, I was been talking to Mr. Georges,
Okay.
and he's telling me that Lion won't operate, run, like PowerPC apps.
Yeah.
I do have some of those. So I was just trying to see what I'm going to have to do to be compatible with Lion.
So what you should be doing is looking at the list and going, when's the last time I ran that program? And if it's not something that you run all the time, what you're basically telling yourself is that you need to clean up your computer. get stuff off of it that you don't use, that you don't need, that you don't want. Mr. Baldwin?
If we just can't bear to part with these classic apps quite yet, I believe if you just want to keep them and you don't want the OS to see them, I believe if you've got them in a folder someplace, if you zip them, if you zip that folder, I do not believe it will see them.
That is correct. If you're putting it into an archive container.
Right, you put it into, you just zip the folder that contains your classic apps, which you said indicated you're not really using, you just want to keep them around just in case.
Yeah.
Make that folder a zip archive, and I don't believe the operating system will see them. If people run into the same trouble with fonts on Mac OS, in the older versions of the Mac operating system, the operating system only saw fonts in the fonts folders. But in OS X, it will see the fonts no matter where you put the dang things, which causes all kinds of troubles. But if you need to not actively in use, if you zip the folder that contains them, it should not see them.
Okay.
And what I use, stuff that expands?
No,
No.
zip is built into the operating system.
May I suggest that the easiest way to answer this question is to have me actually zip a folder?
That would be fine.
Okay, because what I'm seeing is, I'm seeing folks out there going like, zip? What the heck is zip? Okay. All right. Now, first thing I want you to put in your head, you're getting ready to go on a trip, okay? And you're going to take some clothes with you. All right, so you've got the clothes laid out on the bed. Well, when you get ready to head to the airport, do you have all your clothes in your arms as you're heading to the gate? No, what do you put them into? Suitcase, okay. Well, in the old classic days, there was a program that would create these containers, and they'd be compressed. So think like the vacuum bags where you put your stuff in and then you suck the air out of it, makes it real nice and small. But it would do it for electronic files. And they were called programs like Stuff It, and then there's this other one called Zip, which was invented here in Dayton, by the way. PK Zip, their offices are here. So, in the Mac operating system, you can create a zip archive using the operating system. No other software involved. So, let's pretend this is George's folder of classic applications. So we pile all this stuff into that folder. Okay? In fact, I'm going to even give it a color here so that we can see. There's that folder, and we're going to call it George's stuff. Yeah. Okay. Now, to create a zip archive of that, I select the folder, make sure I've just got that folder set. I'm in Finder, and over here, I select this thing that says compress. I'm sorry, George.
That's all right, okay.
So I'm in my Finder. I've gone to the File menu, and I've gone to the item just below Get Info, and it says Compress George's Stuff. I then release my finger off of it, and what it does is it creates a file which has a copy of everything that's in there, but it's using some mathematical magic so that it's actually, in most cases, it's going to be smaller than the original contents were. Okay. Real world, it would be why my wife takes me with on the trip, so when we're getting ready to go home, she says, honey, sit on the suitcase so I can get the locks closed. So I'm the compression agent, if you will.
Not as good as you used to
You've got a
be.
big folder.
No, I've been losing a little weight.
And you've got hundreds of megabytes, or God help us, even gigabytes of classic apps. That'll take a little longer than it did right there.
Yeah.
So don't get panicky if the archive doesn't snap into existence.
Yeah, but remember, you're running a Unix computer, so you can be doing other stuff while it's doing its, compression. And you still, the next step would be then to take that one and throw that one away, because you've got it in a zipped archive.
And if I take that file in to some new Mac in the future, I should be able to unzip it.
Yeah.
Just double click it.
So here, let me get George's folder off to the side. I've got George's stuff.zip. Again, we're doing that suffix thing on the end. The .zip means it's a zip archive. I double click it. It opened the one up. Oh, there we go. There's the folder back.
Okay, but my other thing won't see it. That's good.
Yeah,
I
okay.
like that.
Stuff's still in the zip file.
Then
Sometimes you do it, yeah, sometimes you do it just because you want to sort of get a, it's stuff you want to keep, but you want to sort of have it contained. It's like the old back files, you know? You don't want to throw away the old bank records, but on the other hand, you don't want them sitting on your desk, so you throw them in the big accordion folder and put the rubber band around it, put it in the back door of the filing cabinet. So, yeah.
Then just further on that, after you've looked at George's stuff the second time, when you're through looking at it, you can just trash it again?
Yeah.
And then following the fonts, moving I'm not quite sure how to move say fonts that I don't use but I don't want to throw away into a file. Is there
What
anything
I
special?
would suggest, since you're running Mac OS X, is that you launch a program called FontBook. And in FontBook, it will show you all the different fonts that you have, and you can tell it to just turn them off without having to do anything else.
Now, is that in the program or?
FontBook comes with your Mac.
Okay.
It's an application. It'll also let you verify that your fonts are all that they should be. The number one reason why they started doing zip, this is going back old time, when we're doing dial-up modems. Okay. All right. Or you're starting to send stuff over the internet. That's the better one. When you send stuff over the internet, you don't know whose computer, whose file server, whose mail server it's going to go through. And a lot of the, back then, computers were 7-bit as opposed to 8-bit machines. So you're sending this new type of file that's got Unicode in it, and it goes into that machine and it comes out. All right, so what people learned to do was to take those 3 or 4 files they're sending to someone, put it in a zip archive. It's going through as one file instead of 3, and it's in this protective envelope. Sort of like what you want to do with your love letters. Because, you know, if you write the love letter on the postcard, too many people at the Postal Service are going to have fun with it.
My email is a postcard.
Yeah.
Same time, PDF files.
Yep.
That I go through the printer and save as a PDF file are sometimes monstrous.
Yes.
And could you put them on a zip and then send them to someone else?
PDF, portable document format files. They're using a technology called PostScript. There is compression already in PostScript. If you're creating your PDFs through Mac OS X, or you just say print to PDF, you're not going to get the same amount of compression that you would get if you were using Adobe Acrobat Pro. You want
Text, so they are highly compressible as
Yeah, but I thought that
inside.
no, they don't. Okay, well,
Yeah.
then I'm wrong. And Rich is saying that, yeah, go ahead and zip it, and I'll make it smaller when you want to send it.
But then someone getting that zip file can
Yep.
open it?
Yep.
There are also things you can do to cut the size of it, depending on how you're making the PDF.
Yeah.
There are things you can do to cut the size of the PDF.
Yeah. For
As an
example,
asset.
instead of having the picture, which is, you know, quality-wise, you could make a wall poster out of it. Well, no, you make it so it's, you know, reduced quality. Hey, Mike,
That's a long answer, though.
you've used zip files on a PC, right?
Yeah,
Okay, they invented that, what, about 1980 something, 78?
yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been around. It was one of the first ones out there.
What it does is it takes the spaces out,
Yeah.
but remembers where the spaces were, so I don't know how,
Well,
with less
okay.
information, it remembers where it's at, but that's basically all the data is the same.
It does something a little bit more sophisticated than that. Let's say you've got this sentence in English, this book in English, and you got the word the, 3 characters and a space. What these zip algorithms do is they look for patterns in the data, and then they assign codes to those patterns. So instead of it being THE, it would say, you know, number 1. So wherever it has a number 1, it makes it the word the. So it's doing that kind of stuff. Now, think about this though. Pictures, they're made up out of 0s and 1s, okay? So it's looking for patterns of 0s and 1s, and it'll use a special finger. So that's how it actually does it. Using LZH compression algorithms, and I'm trying to remember the guys, the three guys. Yeah. I figured you would know. Okay, we got time for maybe one more. Okay, Ray, is it going to be a short one?
I hope so. Lots of times in this work that I'm doing, we send PDF files back and forth.
I thought you were retired.
Yeah, I'm working for free. We send PDF files. If I'm using the Apple software and so forth,
Yeah.
and I'll be in my message, in my mail, and I have the thing where it says insert or whatever it is, the file, and then you select the file and you put it in. And the entire thing opens up as a picture or a document or whatever. But if I reach over and grab it and just drag it in, it's just a little PDF. Does it affect anything at the other end?
No.
I just as soon have it show up without the picture, but
It's just on your end. It's Apple giving you visual feedback. Oh, okay, you know, as opposed to you're just dragging in the file and then it goes. Oh, okay, they really don't need to see the whole thing. But but when it gets transmitted, it's just doing your standard email stuff.
then at that end, it's just a PDF file they have to open.
Right, it's an attachment.
Okay.
It's on.
Okay, so what I'm seeing at my end isn't the same as what's received at the other end.
Correct.
Okay.
So when you
thank
tell
you.
them, oh, well, to be right there and big, no, they're going to just see that little thing. And if they're doing webmail, they may have to open their little menu where it shows them the files that are attached.
All right.
Okay. I think it's time for a break. What do you folks say? Oh, all right.
Oh, wait. Just before the break, since I got in late, thought I'd get here early and talk about how to do this. I brought a couple of boxes of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I have an Epson printer and an Epson scanner, and
Okay, what we're going to do is this. We're not going to do break yet because we have to do raffle. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. So we'll do raffle. After the raffle, we'll do a short break, and you can all cluster around Dan and make him explain in detail all of the stuff he brought and why does he want $2 for that print? Or whatever.
maybe three.
Maybe 3. Okay. All right. So raffle time. Okay. Eileen, you and Jerry heading out? Hey, Eileen, the fellow that's running it in there, his name is Don Baldwin. Okay?
Did you hear that?
Well,
It wasn't that, I said, a lot nicer than this guy. You weren't supposed to hear that, that's okay.
Make him leave.
okay. So this presentation is going to be about what you do before you install Lion and what you do after you install Lion. I'm not going to go into the actual installation process. I could do a whole thing just on that. So the first thing I want to say is, when do you go to the next version of an operating system? You go to a new version of the operating system if it has features that you really think are going to make your life, improve the quality of your life, add something to your life. You don't just go to the latest thing because it's there. Our closing meeting last year, I just briefly talked about the new things that were in Lion. And so I'm not going to cover those today. Let's just say that there's about 300 things new in Lion that would entice some people to want to have it. Okay? So let's start up with this. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. We've had Tiger as an operating system, and now we got Lion. We haven't had one that's, eventually they're going to run out of kitty cats. We're going to have another thing. So I'm going to sit here. Okay, if you have questions later on, or you want a copy of the presentation, just send me an email at tmgdayton@aol.com. And if you're not sure who I am, that's my name up there. So here we've got what that Lion install looks like. So let's just do an overview of the process. And obviously, since we spent more time on help desk, I've got to compress some of this stuff, so it's going to be like a zip archive. So, wow, a lot of steps. Check your system requirements. All right? And I'll be going through them in a little more detail. Verify that your third-party programs are compatible. So that would mean the stuff that doesn't come from Apple that you use. Your Adobe products or Quicken or let's say you've got a word processor, Microsoft word processor. You want to make sure that this stuff works with Line before you upgrade. Then you want to install your Apple software updates. Then you want to check your hard drive's health. The reason why you want to make sure that hard drive is set up, that there's nothing funky going on with it, is because one of the things the Lion installer does is it partitions your hard drive. So it's going to take your hard drive and it's going to create a separate part of it that's a recovery drive. Just like the PC manufacturers have been doing for years.
But you won't be able to see it. It won't show up on your desktop.
Right. Then after you do all that, you want to back up your Mac. Right? And that's so if you decide, oh no, I really didn't want to do this, or if something goes bad, you can still restore back to where you were. Then you're going to do a little bit of app maintenance. Then and that's basically uninstalling some things before you install Lion. Then you're going to purchase and download Lion. Lion is the first operating system where they're not selling it on physical media. In other words, you're going to be clicking on the App Store and it's going to be downloading the installer.
It's available on a thumb drive now.
Yeah, but you got to be in an Apple store. Not all Apple stores have it. But the reason why I want you to do this prep work is, in the old days, you buy the disc, you look at the box and you go, oh, darn, this won't run on my old machine. You take the box back, you get your money back. Well, here, you've already been charged for it, you've already downloaded it, and you can't put it on your machine. Oh. Then you're going to save a copy of the Lion installer. Yes, Ron?
Can you save this right after you download it to a thumb drive? And what size thumb drive you need?
You need at least it's going to be about 4 gig in size. You can put it onto a thumb drive. What some of us have done, because we want to have that physical thing, is we actually create a bootable thumb drive that's got the installer on it. So we only have to download it once and then we can put it on our other computers. Since this is being bought through the App Store, you can put it on up to 5 machines for your $30.
You can also burn it to your DVD.
Yeah. But that might be a presentation for a later date, putting it on a boot drive, thumb drive, or on a DVD. Then you're going to install Lion.
Now you might want to back up. Tell them why they want to save a copy of the Lion installer before installing
Oh,
Lion.
excuse me. The last thing the Lion installer does when it's finishing the installation is it deletes itself. It goes poof. That's why you want to save a copy before you start the installation process. Thank you, Mark. Then, once you've got the operating system on, you're going to do Apple software updates because there's already a new update to it. And the other reason you want to do the Apple update at that point is because Apple software update will also look at your printers and bring in any new printer drivers you need so that stuff is still functional. And then last but not least, you want to roll through your programs that are not from Apple and look to see if there's updates to them so that they work with Lion. You can't do that beforehand because sometimes they'll say you have to be on Lion to run this program. Okay. So this is the process we're going to walk through. you had a question that you want to ask now, or
Did you already answer about those of us who've already downloaded and installed Lion and have not gone through the step of stopping and saving? How do you go back and do that?
There's a couple things you can do. One of them would be that you can go to the App Store, hold down your Option key, if I remember correctly, and click on the purchase button. It'll re-download it. But again, it's going to take it a while to do that. Thank you. Okay, and do me a favor, send me an email with that question, just in case my memory's flawed, because I've got a little thing. In fact, I've got the references for this. There's a little thing in there that tells you exactly how to do that. If you've purchased it, you've installed it, and then you go, wait a minute, where's my install? Okay, checking system requirements. You don't want to go through the hassle of downloading this stuff and paying for it unless you know it's going to work. So, this is what you got to have in terms of a processor. Intel Core 2 Duo, Core i3, i5, i7, or a Xeon processor. Remember, go to the Apple, select about this Mac. You'll look to see what your processor is. The old single core Intel, PowerPC, Those won't work. Also, you got to have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM installed in your machine. Typically, if you've got something with that processor, they were shipping with at least 2 gig. You're going to be happier with 4 gig of RAM. Yes?
I just read something online last night that they're saying that there's a glut of RAM out there now, and between now and by the end of the year, RAM prices should be falling and should be cheaper than what they have been. So if you're looking to upgrade RAM, now's the time to do it.
Okay.
But some machines can only upgrade so much, right? There's a maximum you can stick in the memory on some computers.
Correct. And there's having a senior moment here. There's a program, I'm trying to remember its name, it's not Macintosh. Anyway, but it's got all the specs for everything Apple ever made, and it'll tell you what the maximum amount of RAM you can put in your machine.
Mac Tracker?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mac Tracker.
Mac Tracker. The other thing that I do is I'll go out to a website run by Crucial. They make Crucial. They make RAM. And there's a little thing you can download. It'll look at your Mac and tell you how much RAM you have, how many slots, and how much RAM you can put into it, if any more. Okay, remember, sometimes we take out a chip that's like 250, let's say we take out a half gig chip and we put in a 1 gig chip. Sometimes you have to take stuff out to put in a higher capacity chip. This one is important. You got to be at Snow Leopard, macOS 10.6.6 or above.
Berkeley 10.6.8 if you want to save a lot of time.
Correct. And the reason why is with 10.6.6, then you've got this new app that shows up in your dock called the App Store. That's the program that's going to be downloading this. It's also the program that's going to be, taking your Apple ID information so they know who to bill. And you got to have at least 4 gigabytes of free space. Now, I used to think, now remember, we've got, 500 gigabyte hard drives, terabyte drives, and I used to think, well, if you got hard drives, that's the free space. Well, with some of the training that I've been doing at a local Mac dealer, I've discovered that people have migrated their PCs onto their Macs. They've never cleaned up any of the PC stuff, so yeah, they fill their hard drives. You're like, wow, ooh, okay. So this is what you got to have before you can even know that you can put it on the machine. So next thing you want to do is verify your third-party applications. So this is that website I I was on before, roaringapps.com. There's about 7,000 programs they've got profiled up there. Now remember, we're talking about programs that have been used by us prior to this. It's Leopard and Snow Leopard, and they work just fine. With Lion, they're taking Rosetta. This is not Rosetta Stone. This is not the foreign language learning software. This is a type of technology that let the Intel Macs run stuff for the powered PC computers. Rosetta is not in Lion. So your older powered PC apps are not going to run. And even many of the ones that were running on the Intel Core, single core, aren't going to run under Lion. So you want to verify that list of applications. Now, one of the things to ask yourself is, all right, I've got this program on my Mac, but I haven't run it in 2 years. It's just sitting there. Well, that's not a deal breaker. If it's something you don't use, then you don't really care if it's compatible or not. You want to make sure that the stuff you're using all the time is going to be compatible. Yeah?
Normally, the stuff that's been running with Snow Leopard will run on Lion, is that what they say?
You want to check. For example, with Adobe products, Adobe Creative Suite, Adobe Creative Suite 4, Creative Suite 5, Creative Suite 3, InDesign 2, ran fine under Snow Leopard. Lion, Yep.
This new system and System 7, so they told somebody, at least they were talking to somebody, that you need more RAM if they like a 4 or 7 to run. Is that because the applications are just that much more complicated and doing it much more? Is that basically?
No, because it's going to be doing some things that previous operating systems didn't do. For example, we have a thing called Resume that's in Lion. Okay. You've launched a word processor, and you've got 2 documents open, and you got your format table over here, and you got your color wheel over here, you got everything set. Under Leopard, Snow Leopard, the previous ones, when I quit the app and I relaunch it, oh, I got to reopen my docs, I got to open my work tablets, get them all set up again. In Lion, I relaunch the program, it opens it up, and everything's there where I left it. Another thing that's in Lion is versions. Versions. So we're saving stuff differently in Lion. It keeps the old copies, versions of a document, and you can say, revert to a prior version, and in the operating system, not Time Machine, but in the operating system, it's going to show you all the previous versions you have of that doc, and you can copy and paste between the old version and the new version. So if you're doing a marketing piece and you had it in January, and now you've been updating it every month, and now we're getting around January again, you can actually see your previous version from last January when you're doing this January's. All within the operating system. Where I think they're going with their operating system is they noticed how popular the iPad has been. In the iPad, you don't find the file and tell the iPad to open it. You launch the app, and the app shows you what documents it's got for you to work with. In other words, there's no finder on an iPad. The computer does the management of this stuff. And that's where I think they're going with the operating system. In other words, when you launch your word processor, it's going to show you all the word processing documents you got. You just pick the one you want. You don't have to go looking for it. It's going to manage this stuff for you. I'm getting on to like 30 years of training people in computer technology. And you're doing just fine until you get to the Finder and you're trying to explain to people how you directories and folders and this folder and that folder, and then all of a sudden it goes south real quick. They're aware of that, and that's what they're taking, I think, the direction they're going. They're going to take that away from you because, you know what, human beings, our time is our most precious resource. The computer should be doing the dumb, keeping track of the files. Okay, now, installing Apple software updates. You want to make sure that any Apple programs are getting updated. So if you got iWork, you got iLife, you want to make sure all that stuff is applied before you do your Lion upgrade. Okay. And you want to make sure that you got your printer drivers upgraded. And Apple software updates will do that. It'll see what printers you have connected that you've been printing from with this machine, and it will update those. Security patches and system updates. You want all that stuff. Yeah.
Is the OS download, are they updating that? If I pull Lion now, would I get the .1 version? So they release an update, or are they going, you know, if they're going to stay close to that?
As of right now, you're getting the .0, not the .1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had just a limited number of instances where I've been there when the people have finished downloading it, and usually I'm there when we get started.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, I'm not hanging around for 4 hours. You know, I got stuff I got to do. I got a life. And then they'll call me and say, hey, it's downloaded, and then so the people that I've worked with on this, they have then found that 10.7.1 update in software update after they've installed. So they, and the new driver, and then there was a security thing with, I'm trying to remember the security.
I was just wondering if they were going to, you know, update the download itself at some point, so.
They are for the Apple Education license partners, because I know for me, I can now get 10.7.1 from the App Store.
Okay. So I go with what Sean is saying then, that they are updating.
Makes sense.
Yeah, she gets more, you know, I'm not in an enterprise environment anymore. I'm dealing with the average customer where they got one, maybe two machines. Okay. Yeah, Elton.
Maybe a silly question, but I guess you're saying you do this after you download the Lion. Are you doing this before?
This is all before. This is all before. You're getting your machine ready for this.
Okay.
And the whole idea behind this is, it's going to take you 4 hours to download this. You want to make sure your machine's in nice, stable condition so that you can get it all done in one download instead of having it like, came down partway and I have to restart. Have to, you know, restart the download.
You're going to do it again after you download Lion.
Why would you go through an update cycle before installing Lion? It's going to be, you know, OS patches are going to be obsoleted anyway.
I'm aiming at the average Macintosh user that does not distinguish the difference between a printer driver and a security patch and a application. So I just tell them, hey, go ahead, do your software update. If I was talking to you, I'd say, well, you know, hey, Rich, you know, you're going to have a better result with your download through the App Store if you put a combo update and you're doing 10.6.8 instead of 10.6.6. Okay. It's actually going to download
At least an hour
faster.
of time in your install, if you're at 10.6.8, at least an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Versus 10.6.8.
But if I'm talking to, let's say it's Dick Heil, okay, Dick's going to say, it's okay? Okay. Dick's going to say, okay, security update, I understand that, but application versus system? I'll say, no, Dick, we're just going to download all the updates so we're up to date. Okay?
I just confirmed it is 10.7.1 if you go to the App Store to do the download.
Oh, cool. Okay, but the thing is, you still have other things that it's going to want to update. So then the next step is back up your Mac. So this is all prior to you installing any of this stuff. I myself prefer Time Machine. There's a lot of people who don't like Time Machine for whatever reason. So the other two that I would use would be Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper. This is, you know, if things go south, if things go bad, you can put your Mac back how it was. Because again, I'm channeling not the enterprise here, but the average Mac user. You've got one computer, maybe two. And you want to make sure that the stuff that you had on that computer is usable to you. Because you don't want to have to take all your music and put it back on the computer. Yeah.
Can my machine undo an OS update?
Yeah, you can revert back. The one confounding factor, sorry, I haven't had one in a while. It all depends on how far it got with the installation. It won't undo that partitioning stuff, but that's okay. You know, at least you're back pretty much where you want to be. You know, you have your data and you have your programs, and it boots, and you can do your stuff, and then you can always go see an Apple dealer if you really want to get the hard drive back exactly the way it used to be.
Bill, question.
Yeah.
What if you wanted to retain Snow Leopard so you could run those programs requiring
Okay, so basically you want to do what's called a dual boot machine. You can tell it whether you want to boot into Snow Leopard or you want to boot into
so if you
Lion.
partition your hard drive to allow that to happen, will Lion just look to the one partition?
I don't know. This is something that I haven't tried yet. The answer that I'm using right now is I'm using something like Carbon Copy Cloner, and I'm cloning my current Mac installation onto an external hard drive. So I've got basically two hard drives, so when Lion does its thing to the internal hard drive, the other one is there if I need it. So I don't have an answer to your question.
I've partitioned and set up Lion,
Yeah.
and Snow Leopard, and even had boot camp in my Snow Leopard.
Beforehand or afterwards?
So
Both. I've had it, because of where I work, I've had to make sure every possible variation of setups.
okay, so the question I have for you then is, if I've got a Snow Leopard box with boot camp, so it's currently partitioned into two separate spaces on the hard drive. I've got Snow Leopard, I've got my Microsoft operating system, and I install Lion. What do I do to this Snow Leopard partition first so that Lion
I
is...
backed it up first,
Yeah.
blew away the Snow Leopard so I could repartition that, so I had a partition out for Snow Leopard and a partition for Lion. And then
Okay,
put
and
my
how about for
backup
boot
back
camp?
on. Boot camp is untouched, it's already a separate partition.
Okay, so what you're doing is repartitioning that half that was
That
storage. Okay, and then you put Snow Leopard back on to one of those partitions, and then you tell the Lion installer to do the third partition. So yeah, you can do a
So
multi-boot
as part of
machine.
the Lion installation, it's going to ask you where you want to put it.
Right.
It's just not going to assume it has control of the entire hard drive.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask how?
Snow Leopard in a virtual machine?
Yeah, you can run it in a virtual machine.
Okay, so that's another.
But again, average Mac user,
Yeah.
I just stay away from that with them.
Can I ask how she
Okay,
partitioned
please.
her, can I ask how you partitioned your drive? Did you use disk utility or? Because I was told the only way to.
Okay, now remember what she's doing is she's backing up Snow Leopard onto an external hard drive.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's got it over here. Then she's taking those two part that you got your partition and your boot camp, and she's repartitioning the stuff that doesn't have boot camp on it.
Okay, so you wiped what was the boot drive.
For the Mac, yes.
Okay. And you're using your external as your boot to do that,
Right.
to partition.
Yeah, I used
Okay.
the Lion disk to do it.
Now, I use a program called Drive Genius, where it does it on the fly, just as the boot camp installer does it on the fly. That means I don't have to move my data off, move my data back on.
Well, I was told that it would be possible to use Boot Camp installer to repartition your drive and then reformat the FAT32 partition into a Mac drive. Has anybody tried that?
that's a couple too many steps for me. For me, I'd rather spend the money for a commercial program that lets me repartition the stuff without moving the data, as opposed to, I'm gonna use the boot camp installer, and then I've got to do this, and then I gotta do this, and I gotta do that. You know,
Well, I just didn't know whether anybody had tried it, whether it was successful or ran into problems.
what I tell regular people is, how about we get a nice external hard drive for your Mac, and we put a copy of Snow Leopard on that, and then we disconnect it from your Mac and then install Lion on the main box. And that way you can boot from either one of those drives. And we don't have the situation where, oops, I installed on the wrong partition. Okay, Ron.
I have a basic question. Will parallels work with Lion? I've recently purchased a new hard drive because I filled up my old one, and I divided it up into 4 partitions. And my plan was to let Snow Leopard stay on one of them. I have partitioned for Lion that I haven't done anything with, and 2 other partitions.
Okay.
For Windows.
If you have Parallels 7,
Okay.
that works under Lion.
Okay, you can't, my thinking is I'm not going to be able to switch seamlessly between Snow Leopard to Lion to Windows using Parallels.
No. If you've got them on separate partitions, when you're starting up your computer, you're holding down your Option key, it's going to show you those 4 partitions, 3 partitions, as if they are separate hard drives, and it's going to show you which ones are bootable, and you pick the one you want to boot from.
So you can't aim parallels at a partition that would have Snow Leopard in it.
No. If you're going to do virtualization, you would have a. Ron, let me just do this. I don't know if Parallels for the Mac will let me run Lion and virtualization on it. I know that Parallels for the PC and Linux will let me run Lion and Lion Server and virtual. But I don't know about the other one. Yes, Ellen?
I don't know if this is a question for you or for Mark. Korean there, I noticed, and I was put on to Korean by Mark earlier when I was trying to download some videos from YouTube. And as I understood it, I don't remember everything, but I thought Korean helped QuickTime to work better with those YouTube downloads.
Yeah.
Does that mean I have to totally uninstall that Korean and reinstall it after?
I find I get a better result when I do that. At Pairing, we're at 1.2.3 as its version. And when you reinstall it, then it will let you install for all users, where if it's there and then you upgrade, then it seems to only work for one user.
One user? What do you mean by one user?
Well, if you've got more than one user on your Mac, more than one user account.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So what I'm following is, and most of the stuff I'm channeling with the folks at Macworld magazine have said, so they highly recommend uninstalling Flip for Mac, Growl, and Parian, and then afterwards you reinstall them.
For Mac is not quite Lion compatible yet, so there's still some stuff not working.
Yeah, but it will.
But it installs.
If you got,
Silverlight's the bigger one that is, a lot of videos are now switching to Silverlight, and then it's Lion compatible.
Okay, so then you get up to the point where you're going to purchase it. You launch that app store. And then it takes you, so here's the app store's acting like it's a web browser. It takes you to the Apple website, the app store. You're looking for where Lion is. You click on that. They got it plastered all over the place. It comes up. You click on the $29.99 button. Then it turns green and says buy app, and you click it again, and then it's going to say put in your Apple ID and your password. And after that, it starts the download process. Okay, this thing is 3.8 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes. I have not figured out why, with some people, it's a bigger download than other people. But it's going to be in the 4 gigabyte range. All right, now remember, real world, a megabyte is the equivalent of a Harry Potter novel in terms of rule of thumb. A megabyte is a Harry Potter novel. A gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes, so we're talking about a file that's the equivalent of 4,000 Harry Potter novels. So it's going to take it a while to download. The shortest time I've seen was about 2.5 hours, and that was on somebody with Time Warner, and they had the uber high bandwidth rate. AT&T DSL, I've seen it take as long as 5 hours to download.
Is that wired or wireless?
That was wired. Yeah, if you're on wireless, it's always going to take you a little bit longer because you don't have as much input. Think plumbing, folks. You have a big pipe or you got a little garden hose. Okay?
You know,
Yeah, right.
anything special on your computer when you're doing a 4 or 5 hour download, like don't let it go to sleep or don't let it hiccup or whatever?
Yeah, you tell it to, well, first of all, if it's a laptop, make sure it's plugged into the wall, that you're not running off a battery. And usually you'll go into your power saver settings, you'll tell it, do not sleep hard drive, do not sleep computer. If I remember, I had somebody tell me that the App Store actually will override those power settings, and that if you're doing the download, it won't sleep the hard drive, but I have not verified that. Yeah?
If it gets interrupted for some reason, does it, like in iTunes, does it basically pause and then
Yeah,
resume
and then you-
come
then
back
you tell it to
location
continue.
later? So it doesn't start over from scratch?
No, it picks up from where it left off, unless something else happens. You know?
It's always done that.
Yeah, there's always something. Yeah, Rich.
Given this is so long, could you actually overlap some of your cleanups with this download?
I would do all the cleanup, all that prep work before I start downloading. Because this cleanup stuff, this is stuff that you should be doing on your machines once a year anyway. Okay. No, I mean you should. You should be going through, looking at, hey, these are programs I don't use anymore. They shouldn't be on my computer anymore. Okay, so let's go to the next step. Okay, this one I'm going to say it 3 times, maybe 4 times I'll say it. Once you've downloaded Lion, there's this file. It's called install Mac OS X Lion.app. It's an app. It does not go in your downloads folder. They put it in your applications folder. And if you've got your downloads set to go to your desktop, it's still going to go to your applications folder. So, once it's finished downloading, you want to make a duplicate of it and save that copy someplace else. So you leave the original file that you downloaded in your applications folder, and the other one you put onto a flash drive, if you got a big enough flash drive, or you put it in your documents folder, or put it on an external hard drive, but you put it someplace else. So you've got 2 copies, the one that's in the applications folder, and you got your spare.
How big of a file is that? That 4 gig?
4 gig. 3.8, 4 gig. Yeah.
I have trouble with the word you said. Once you download it, you find that in the applications folder that he says, do this before you install Lion. So
Right.
before or after?
So I'm saying before you click that thing and start installing Lion, you want to make sure you've got a copy of this.
Oh, check the app.
Right.
See this.
Because you see the Lion installer, when you launch it,
Before you run it, back it up.
There's going to be something on
before
your
you run
dock.
it, have a copy of this, because when you run the installer and it's doing the partition of the hard drive and it's installing the new apps and all this other stuff, the very last thing it does is it deletes itself.
Well, there'll be an icon on the dock
Other 4
to
machines
install.
that you're going to put
Don't
in.
click
Why
that until you
download it
copy this.
5 times if you can just get away with downloading it once.
So you just drag it to the DVD, DVD, put it under that.
And use it for your other
It
machine?
will fit on a DVD, yeah, if you run it on the DVD. Me, why put it on permanent media if I can put it on a flash drive? And then later on burn a real installed DVD. Huh? Okay. Well, okay. The answer is you do what works for you and that you understand. And you don't worry about being a Pterosaurus. Or an Allosaurus. So let me say it one more time. The Lion installer will delete itself when it's completing the Lion installation. It's not going to delete itself when it's finished downloading. It's going to delete itself once you've launched it and you have it do the install process. So before you do the install, after you've done the download, but before you do the install, you save a copy. Okay, did I do my job there? Everybody's got it? Okay. When Mr. Gray does this, that means I actually nailed it. Okay, now you're ready to install Lion. What I usually do is, after I've downloaded all this stuff, I usually reboot the machine. Turn it on, turn it off. Just as sort of like, it's like eating the parsley before you try the next glass of wine. Clear the palate. So, you've got your installers downloaded. You double click on that Mac OS X installer application. And then in the window, it gets a continue, and then you get the agree. What's the number one lie this century? You know what it was last century? The check is in the mail. This century, it's I have read and agreed to. So then your installation will start, and it takes about 2 hours for it to do its thing on a slow Mac.
What's a slow Mac?
That would be an Intel Core Duo as opposed to an i3, an i5, i7 processor. It's a little bit faster if you don't have a whole lot of stuff on your hard drive. A little bit.
Does it give you a progress bar so you can...
Yeah, you get the typical, Yeah. And it'll start out and it says, it's going to take 16 years to do this. Maybe 8 years. Oh, okay. 2 hours. Okay, so now this is like a cooking show, and we're going to, quick bring out the cake, and it's already iced and everything. So it's done. So what do we do at this point? We've got Lion, we've rebooted the machine, then we go to Apple software updates, and we have the new Lion operating system go out, look at whether there's any updates it needs in terms of printer drivers, security patches, whatever. Okay, and then last but not least, this is the one that takes the most time. You start going through your programs, making sure that they work, and usually, if they're not App Store programs, they'll say something like they have an update. So it'd be like your Firefox, you want to be at 602 instead of 601. If you've got something like Photoshop Express, you want to check to make sure that things are still working the way you're expecting them to. So anyway, I thank you for coming out today. 1 minute to go. I'm going to stay here and answer questions, but we're officially adjourned. And next month we're going to be doing another product. It's not an Apple product. It's called Dropbox. It's a way of being free storage on the internet.